So, what is embellishing? That's a good place to start.
Well, embellishing is really, I believe, just becoming too concerned or over obsessed, if you will, with a particular person of interest. We use it all the time, when we're trying to eliminate people. Now, keep in mind, eliminate is pretty much the same thing as cleared. So people can understand that, the audience can understand that. So what we try not to do is embellish. Now, you have to understand, for a younger John Kelly coming into this field, I mean, looking at this, looking at that. Oh, that might be him. That's him over there. He could be him over here. Let's look at what he did over here. Let's look at what he did over there. How about over here, right? Could he be? Could he? Would he? Shoulda? Coulda? He said, they
Or
said.
100% certain that it.
Yeah.
Not even coulda, woulda. On YouTube these days, you see this one is definitely the killer. Wow.
That's definitely the killer, right, on YouTube, right?
Right.
So what Frank taught me early on, he said, listen, the best way to do this, and he said, I've taught all my detectives this. He was the commander of detectives, Green River, right? All the detectives in Kent County. And he said, let's go and try to prove the guy innocent. I said, what? Yeah, let's try and prove him innocent, because if he's innocent, fine, he's not the guy. However, if you try to eliminate him and you cannot eliminate him, okay, then the case is only going to get better. And what I have found out, if you focus on it that way, go out to prove the guy innocent, go out to eliminate him. But if you can't eliminate him, you will automatically see that it will start to get better. And because he's guilty, right? Or pretty much around the guilty person, or a major, major person of interest. Now, keep in mind, too, with the usual suspects, some of those you cannot eliminate. Some of those you can't clear. Same thing, right? And you can go down the stretch, okay? Like in Delphi, with a bunch of people that are possibles that you can't.
Not once did they name Richard. In
Right,
all of
right.
that
And
Delphi speculation.
not one with the name Richard. So, but it's easier to try and eliminate, and as you're in that process, if he's the guilty party, or coming down the final stretch to the usual suspects, the case will only get stronger. You won't be able to eliminate him. You'll not be able to eliminate him.
Here's a good question. John, do you believe civilians should speculate why or why not?
I think civilians should speculate if they'd like to. I mean, there's such a thing as free speech too, to speculate if they'd like to in chats or among their peers or whatever. But I think speculation is important than coming out and saying that they killed the person. I mean, I just don't think there's reason to jump into the name of the person and put it out there. I don't think the name needs to be put out there. I think, names can be used like hoodie guy, I mean, there are other ways to put things out there than to put the name out and to speculate that they are a killer. Because, I mean, when you look at speculation, what is the definition of speculation? Okay. Bottom line is, are you willing to leave that up to the lawyers and a jury? Are you willing to go that far? I suggest you don't, but certainly it's up to you. Now, can you speculate with a name of Garrett Kurtz on Delphi if he killed two people? Why not? The guy's a murderer. Okay, he is a person of interest. He should be speculated about. But if it's somebody that doesn't have any kind of criminal history, I mean, you got to be really, really careful.
What are your thoughts on this white elantra? And they haven't found it yet.
I have concerns about the white elantra. I just have concerns about it. I mean, I think it's important with the kind of full court press that they're putting on it. I think it's very, very important. I have some concerns because also what was brought out was that there was a high-end SUV that was also seen at the house. Am I correct?
Yeah. Yep.
And what is that? How come nobody else saw that?
Only the one neighbor saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, this is around the time of the Elantra. I don't know. I'm up in the air. I'm up in the air about it. I mean, I'm sure there's really damn good reason why they're after this Elantra. I really do not have a whole lot of understanding about this high-end SUV, expensive car from some other state, license plates unknown. Well, I think Adam has a plethora of information, whether he knows it or he doesn't know it. Because don't forget, law enforcement usually knows more than you think they do, and he may have information that's prevalent to the case that he may not even know is prevalent to the case. Some of it I'm sure he would, but there might be a nugget here, nugget there. See, what law enforcement likes to do too is look for nuggets, because they can take a little nugget and then they can find a whole giant boulder somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, just following the trail of that nugget. So we have to take that into consideration as well.
Yes.
But I think Adam's a player here, a major player as far as information goes. I would just like people to think about what's their risk reward, what's their risk versus their reward for doing this. And I'd like to put this out there to you and to your audience and everything too, because the girls were partying. The girls were partying, right? So the girls are on their way back in that video we saw. And Maddie, would you tell Adam? Now, I'm going by the inflection of her tone, the inflection of her voice. Okay.
Yes.
Now, that inflection kind of led me to feel it was alarming that she had real concern of what Maddie told the bartender. Okay, let's put it like that. Okay. What's your feeling? What's your audience's feeling on that? I mean, does it sound like it was alarming? Or is this a girl that maybe just partied a little too much and that's just the way it came out? I mean, but I see what I'm trying to figure out was it, what did you say to Adam? Or what did you say to the bartender? Excuse me, right? But on the other side of that, and it was in the video, Adam, on the other side of that is, or what did you say to Adam? Why did you say that? You got to look at the inflection there. What did you get from that? But then again, it's coming from a girl that was having a good time.
So, John, if you were looking at this case, you and your stalk team, I know you can't share a lot of the profiles you might be building and thinking about and talking about, but how would you go about, if you were, let's say, regularly talking about it online, how would you go about this process of elimination and avoiding embellishing?
Well, first of all, we know we're not online much. Okay, that stock and John Kelly profile, we don't go online much. Okay, we only go on when we think we have something that's important. Keep in mind, our focus is to try and get tips and pass them on to law enforcement, or to try and come up with a profile that helps catch the killer. Okay, and that's our goal. That's our goal. Okay. The way we're going about this right now is in a very slow, methodical way, trying to see, who has history, who should be eliminated, how can we prove they should be eliminated? Not easy. Not easy here. Was not easy in Delphi. But this actually is harder than in Delphi. Okay? Because this, can be a real anger motivated. I mean, the raw anger motivated in some way. But I just felt we just knew in Delphi it was more sexually focused. So if you can find out, number one, the who, young girl. Number two, the how, stabbed. Okay. Now that starts to take us down another path. That opens up a path for us that we can throw a lot of different things in there. But with this case, there's just a lot. There's just a lot of DNA. Not so in Delphi. There might have been a little. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. But this case, there is a lot of science, a lot of DNA, multiple people. What I can tell you, Delphi was an outside crime scene.
Yes,
and
yes.
Within 24 hours, you can lose up to like 90% of any kind of, DNA evidence to animals and the elements. This is so compact, everything inside, everything protected from the elements. So these guys, when I say guys, I mean these law enforcement experts, that have all this to work with and all this science, they're going to come up with something because it's all contained. And if they don't come up with something, it's going to be extremely scary. I don't want to scare anybody to the point of them being really anxious, but I want people in that community up there in Idaho to have some fear, and I'm sure they do, because they need to be on their toes. Until we have some resolution here, they need to be on their toes. Now, you asked me also what else about the police or whatever, or how our stock team would continue.
Yeah. Yes. How would you think about the case, and how would your process of elimination work based on everything you know about the case? Things like that.
Based on what I know, I'd have to really have stronger a stronger elimination protocol on anybody that could have been a player. And what I mean by player is anybody that was involved that night, because don't forget, up until that night, I mean, we had these 4 people just going along happily enjoying their lives. In a blink of an eye, something happened in their system. Okay? A predator appeared in their system. Wasn't there the day before? They were alive. Yep. So that day, somebody came into their world and killed them. Okay, so now we have to take a look at who is new. What kind of history do they have? Somebody that's comfortable with blood? Very possible. Very possible. Somebody that's very comfortable with a knife? Very possible. Somebody that's using a knife as a phallic symbol? Right? Very possible. Or is it somebody that didn't want to make any noise and they wanted it to be done as quiet as possible? So they are very good with a gun too. But guess what? A gun is going to bring people running, because you'd have to have at least 4 shots, right? So maybe this is somebody that's been around, that knows a little bit, And, they're going to be more of an expert with the knife if it's about killing and not about using a knife as a sexual instrument. Okay. So see, you got to start, pulling all this apart, right? Then, you have somebody that hears a scream. Well, okay. How many people heard the scream? Okay. That has to be checked out. If it can't, I mean, how do you prove person heard a scream, not heard a scream? I mean, that's pretty. If nobody else heard one, right? I mean, you'd have to have a couple of people support that, but you have to take that into consideration. You have to take into consideration somebody that saw a car, but there was no car. You have to take into concern somebody that, when I mean by that car, I mean the high-end SUV. And you also have to take into consideration the Elantra, where it seems there's a full court press on for the Elantra that cannot be found yet.
Yep.
It cannot be found yet. So even though people think this is a long time, you and I both know
It's not.
that this is just the very beginning with this. Now, again, scary, because if you've got some trained psycho out there or untrained psycho out there running around, that means people have to be on their toes. I don't want people on their toes. They need to be on their toes anyway until cops say, okay, we got him. It's all good.
Because you're saying it could be someone that's used to blood and maybe used to a knife. Do you think that someone who would stab 4 people, if it is one person, even if it's 2?
I believe this is a person who's had experience with a knife. And I'm going to tell you something else, and you all know this, but you're going to hear it first on Grizzly True Crime. Okay? All we hear about is the stabbing. All right? Now, if you're going in to kill somebody and you don't want them to make a sound, you've got to be trained, to muffle their mouth while you stab them. Or why have we not heard about slicing the throat? Why have we not heard about any cutting, any slicing? Why has it been stab, 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 stab? See, that bothers me.
Yeah.
Because you've got to be a professional, I believe, or you've got to know how to use a knife to know exactly where the organs are that you're stabbing, or you have a hand over their mouth, because, I'm not hearing about any kind of slicing. And I'm sorry if this is, a crude way of talking about it, but these are just the facts. I'm not, and I don't think you guys either have heard about anybody's throat being cut or anything. We're just hearing stab, stab, stab. Could he stab him in the throat? Yes. Stabbed him in the chest? Yes. But when we start talking about stabbing, that really gets me going, because then I start thinking about the sexual nature of the stabbing. So that leads me away more down a sexual pathway than it does towards a revenge kind of pathway. We've dealt with cases, and they're called pickerists. We've dealt with pickerists in the past in various cases. Probably the best known pickerist is Jack the Ripper over in London. Okay. And then we have, some after him.
Another Jack.
Another Jack.
Jack the Ripper.
Jack the Ripper. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Pretty crazy. All these Jacks, boy, they're nice. Yeah. So we've had and some have been caught, some haven't been caught. Jack the Ripper was never really caught or identified. The Connecticut Valley Killer, it's never been caught. Ned Snellgrove has been caught. He's in a cage wasting away up in Connecticut. Yeah. So there's a number. It's really sometimes you just have to be patient.
Yeah. Yeah. Moral of the story, guys. Patience.
I really believe law enforcement will be able to pick this up through the DNA. Now, if by some chance they can't, and we have a guy that was that good that he didn't leave any ounce or speck of DNA,
Yep.
I mean, we got a super predator on our hands. I will just say that. Without a solid why, how do you know what direction to go in? How do you find the who without the why?
Question of the day, you guys. Why?
Easy.
And there can be so many whys right now when we only know 5% of what's really going on that law enforcement might know.
I see that. That's an interesting one. Do I think this is the perpetrator's first kill? That's a really, really good question. I'd have to put, see, even here, I'd have to put this in two different situations. If it's a sexual thing, no, that was not his first. If it's not a sexual thing, if it's just somebody going over the deep end that had, some kind of, explosive disorder take off in them and became really impulsive with anger and rage, could be. What also could lead me to that too is lots of times the age of the perp, lots of times, not all the time, but lots of times the age of the perp is around the age of the victim. And usually by the time people really start cooking, although this is changing too with mass murders, used to be between 25 and 35 for serials, probably between 2019 now, and when you start to see some budding, or it's amazing. It's amazing. They're getting younger and younger all the time. We keep talking about the driver that picked them up at the food truck from the bar. From the bar, they went to the food truck. Driver picked them up at the food truck, took them home. The cops, I guess, interviewed the driver that picked them up at the food truck. I think his answer was nothing unremarkable, with them or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But who is the one that took them to the bar? That's the one where is that guy? Who is that guy?
Is it the same one? We don't know, because it's a designated sorority driver. That's what Katie's dad said, that collected them from the food truck. But yes, at 10 p.m., it was 10:15 p.m. Katie's sister said they were picked up. They were picked up and taken to the corner club. So yes, who took them? Even that we don't know.
Yeah, that's a question I'd like answered. Who was the one that took them to that? How'd they get to that bar?
Yeah,
that's a question that needs to be answered. Yeah, I would be very careful of being obsessed and letting your ego get the best of you, and mentioning names and calling somebody a murderer without before law enforcement does. You're really asking for trouble. I mean, again, we don't know. We have no idea at this point in time, us personally, who exactly, proof positive, is the killer, unless we have tarot cards. Okay. And I'm only kidding there, of course, right? But nobody really knows. You got to wait for law enforcement to call somebody a killer and to arrest somebody before you even get in that direction. What's the risk reward? Is what I'm going to ask. What is the risk reward? I mean, because you can end up feeling pretty bad about yourself and ending up on the wrong end of a lawsuit and everything else. I mean, like I said, it's you got to try to eliminate people, people of interest if you want to, because you're not going out there to call them a killer to say they're guilty. You're trying to say they're innocent. You're trying to eliminate them, because if they are guilty, you will not be able to prove they're innocent. The case will only get better. That's what really your good seasoned detectives do. That's what got me researching serial killers, and I got to meet a couple of your friends. You've written books about Mr. John Gacy. Yes, that's how I ended up corresponding with John Gacy. You wrote a book on Henry Lee Lucas, correct? Or
No, only Gacy, Bundy, Dahmer, and Eileen Wuornos.
Okay. Well, you know about Lucas, and that's how I got to meet Lucas up close and personal. You know, because I was interviewing them. I wanted to find out what created the beast. I wanted to get down to the root cause. You know, I wanted to get down to the root cause, which I thought was the root cause. And I still believe that child abuse, which can cause inferiority, inadequacy, or insecurity early on, post-traumatic stress, and low self-esteem, and a feeling of being worthless and powerless. And that's why these people are out to get more power, and you know, you know, it just explodes, you know, with their narcissistic thinking and behavior, you know, and they don't feel good enough to be, you know, to be around a woman, or can't have a relationship well, so they have to physically and lots of times sexually control and dominate a woman. So that, you know, all of that's what led me where I am. But
yes,
you know, discovering Lazarus is the good, the bad, the ugly of John Kelly, and how he ended up where I'm at. And I just can't thank all your audience for how, you know, all the kind words, buying the books purchased. I can't thank you enough for having me on and plugging me the way you do. And I give you so much credit, because really you're a shining and shooting star. You know, you're just taking off. Like I said, I've been around a little bit longer than you would, just on the YouTube thing, but I've never seen anybody take off as quickly as you have. And it's really because of your commitment and concern and care for your audience. I truly believe that. And of course, the comprehensive approach you take to cases. You know.
So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. If there's any breaking news in this case, or if they, of course, catch the perp, I mean, damn, we'd love to pick John Kelly's brain.
Yeah, and I'll be watching you. Because I watch all the time. So yeah, you report anything, and I'm not bashful, as you know. I'll email you and say, hey, you know, let's talk about this. Wow, look what you
Yes.
look what you found here. You know, so that's where we're at. Thank you again so much for having me. I can't thank you all enough. You and your audience are great. You always are. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Bye.
Thank you.